A courtroom. A deal. And Saul Goodman throwing a legal miracle straight into the trash. In Saul Gone, he has the federal government practically begging him to accept a 7-year sentence. The jury is buying everything he's selling. The deal is done. Then, he destroys it. And that's the question at the heart of Jimmy McGill's story. Why does a man this clever keep choosing the one path that ruins him? From the Chicago sunroof to Omaha, Jimmy is constantly presented with exits. Safe jobs, fresh starts, legitimate careers, relationships worth protecting, and over again, he walks right past them. On the surface, it's easy to blame Walter White, the cartel, or bad luck. Jimmy gets pulled into dangerous situations and eventually pays the price. But that's not really what happens. The most dangerous person in Jimmy McGill's life is Jimmy McGill. Not Walt, not Lalo, not Chuck. Jimmy, because underneath the charm, the jokes, and the colorful suits is a man who can't stop proving he's the smartest guy in the room. A man who would rather beat the system than live inside it. And that's the pattern we're going to follow throughout this video. From Slippin' Jimmy and Cicero, to the mailroom at him, to Saul Goodman, and finally Gene Takovic in Omaha, every major turning point reveals the same flaw. Whenever Jimmy is given a choice between stability and the con, he chooses the con. Not because he has to, because he wants to. And once you start looking at his story through that lens, a lot of moments feel very different. The tragedy of Jimmy McGill isn't that nobody saw who he was becoming, it's that he did. So let's go back to the beginning, to Cicero, Illinois, where the first exits were already on the map and Jimmy McGill walked right past every single one of them. So what are we actually tracking, starting back in Cicero? Not just scams, not just cartel business. We're tracking a pattern in one guy's brain, a lifelong hunger to be loved, respected, and taken seriously that keeps eating him from the inside out. Jimmy wants what most people want: approval, a pat on the head from the people who matter. But here's the thing. For him, the people who matter are almost always authority figures who think he's a joke. Chuck, Howard, the Bar Association, the whole sterile legal establishment. Every time they treat him like Slippin' Jimmy from Cicero, it's not just an insult, it's a trigger. Think about it. When Chuck says he's not a real lawyer, Jimmy doesn't just sulk. He gets to work proving Chuck wrong in the most Jimmy way possible. Cutting corners, bending rules, finding the loophole no one else sees. That same engine powers every version of him. Jimmy McGill, Saul Goodman, even Gene in Omaha. Different names, same craving. You'll never respect me? Fine, I'll outsmart you so hard you have to. But that craving mutates. It turns into a feedback loop. The more he's dismissed as a clown, the more he leans into the clown suit. The more he leans into the cons to prove he's clever, the more his cleverness justifies bigger and bigger risks. It starts as slipping on ice for a payout. It ends as walking into a courthouse as Saul Goodman, cartel lawyer, like that's a perfectly normal job description. So here's how we're going to follow that spiral. We're moving chronologically. Cicero pranks, mailroom hustles, the first elder law shortcuts, then Mesa Verde, the forged documents that fix his problem with Chuck while secretly proving Chuck right. From there, we escalate to full Saul. The TV ads, the neon suits, the clients he knows are a red flag the second they open their mouths. Some of these self-sabotage moments are loud, taking Lalo's case when every survival instinct should be screaming no. That desert run in Bagman, covered in dust and piss, dragging cartel money across the sand after a shootout that should have scared him straight. But still, another missed opportunity to change course. Others are quiet, and in a way more damning, the Mesa Verde forgery in the dark, where nobody's watching. The very first Saul Goodman TV ad, where he chooses the persona over the profession. That first phone call as Gene, when one tiny Better Call Saul impulse cracks open the whole witness protection shell. These are the moments where he could walk away, and doesn't. As we go, I want you tracking 2 questions. First, when does Jimmy truly become Saul? Is it a single decision, or a slow drip that only looks obvious in hindsight? Second, is there any point, after a certain line, where he could realistically turn back without betraying the identity he's chosen? Hear me out, because by the time we get to Omaha, that question gets a lot messier than it looks at the time. So to answer those 2 questions, you have to go back. Way back. Before Albuquerque, before the billboard, before Saul Goodman was even a punchline. You have to go to Cicero, to the story Jimmy cannot stop telling, the Chicago sunroof. The sunroof. This is Jimmy's original nuclear overreaction. As he tells it, it starts small. He's a 2-bit scammer. A guy named Chet screws him over, talks trash, maybe messes with a girl Jimmy cares about. Petty stuff. The kind of thing most people would handle with an argument or, by just walking away. Jimmy does not walk away. He climbs onto Chet's car, drops his pants, and defiles the open sunroof while Chet and his family are inside. It's gross. It's theatrical. And in Jimmy's head, it's the perfect revenge. Because think about it, he doesn't just want Chet to feel bad, he wants a story. He wants something so outrageous that people in Cicero will be repeating it in bars for years. But here's the thing. That perfect prank instantly mutates into a felony sex offense when it turns out there are kids in the back seat. Suddenly, it's not just public indecency. It's a life-ruining charge that gets him arrested, facing prison, and branded as something he absolutely is not. One impulsive stunt, and his entire future is hanging by a thread. This is the pattern in miniature. Jimmy takes a solvable problem and insists on solving it with maximum cleverness and spectacle. He can't just get even, he has to get creative. The more theatrical the move, the better it feels in the moment, even if the downside is obviously catastrophic. At the time, it feels like genius. Later, it looks like self-sabotage. And he still needs an audience. Every time he recounts the Chicago sunroof, he plays it for laughs. He leans into the ridiculous visual, the "can you believe I actually did that?" energy, and he skates past the part where he almost spends years in prison. That's a red flag. When your origin story is almost your ruin, and you tell it like a bar joke, something is off. To be fair, Chuck does save him. Chuck bails him out, works the system, gets the charges reduced. This is Jimmy's first big off-ramp. He could treat that courtroom as the moment Slippin' Jimmy dies. Go straight, respect the law, honor the brother who just pulled him back from the edge. But Jimmy doesn't treat it as a wake-up call. He treats it as a near-miss anecdote. Another missed opportunity to actually change, disguised as a crazy story he survived. And hear me out, that exact combo ego, showmanship, and minimizing consequences is going to follow him into his legal career. Same mind, same impulse to go big or go home, just with nicer suits, a law degree, and clients whose problems are way more dangerous than a guy named Chet. The next time he decides to get clever, people aren't just going to be offended. Some of them are going to end up dead. The scary part is, by the time he realizes that, he'll already be in business with someone much worse than Chet, and walking away won't be nearly that simple. Jimmy's next stop isn't a courtroom. It's a basement. The mailroom is where his dream of going straight doesn't die all at once. It just slowly suffocates under fluorescent lights. The mailroom. This is Jimmy's purgatory. He's not Slippin' Jimmy anymore, but he's definitely not a lawyer. He's sorting envelopes, hauling carts, joking with the copy guys while real attorneys glide past in $1,000 suits, barely clocking that he exists. At the time, it feels like a stepping stone. You watch him hype himself up on that idea. Pay your dues. Keep your head down. One day you'll be upstairs. But here's the thing. Every detail tells you how small they actually see him. The way people toss him files without looking up. The fake friendly Jimmy. That sounds more like talking to a mascot than a colleague. It's not open cruelty. It's worse. It's indifference. And for a guy who's survived his whole life by getting attention, that quiet dismissal is brutal. The one exception is Kim. Kim in the mailroom era is the biggest red flag that Jimmy could have had something healthy. She studies late, grinds harder than anyone, and she still makes time to share a cigarette with him out back. She laughs at his jokes, pushes him to aim higher, and crucially, she believes he can actually do it. Think about it. This is the first time in his life that someone smart, disciplined, and genuinely good looks at Jimmy McGill and says, "You're not a joke." That belief changes him. You see it in the way he starts reading law books, in secret at first, like he's cheating on his own past. He's not running a con here. He's grinding. Night school, real exams, no shortcuts. When he passes the bar, it's not some scam. It's the most honest win he's ever had. And he walks into that conference room expecting the obvious payoff, new suit, new office, same hallway as Kim. Then comes the reveal. Chuck stalls. Howard smiles that polished him smile, and gently tells Jimmy he can't hire him as an attorney. On paper, it's not a good fit. In reality, Chuck has quietly pulled the plug. The brother Jimmy idolized is the one who blocks him from ever leaving the basement. Hear me out, this is the moment the poison really sets in. Because Jimmy did everything right. He followed the rules, passed the test, stayed out of trouble, and he still ends up back in the mailroom watching Kim ride the elevator up while he stays below. The obvious message he takes from that? The game is rigged. The rules are for suckers. That's the clue a lot of people miss when they think Saul Goodman is just a greedy sleaze. For Jimmy, going crooked starts to feel like the only honest response to a dishonest system. If the fancy firm will never see him as a real lawyer, why keep pretending? From this point on, every shortcut starts to feel justified. Forging documents, bending ethics, hustling clients, it all traces back to that conference room, no. And once he decides the straight path is a dead end, the next version of Jimmy that steps forward isn't just a mailroom guy with a dream. It's the early blueprint of Saul Goodman, a man who's about to stop asking for acceptance and start taking whatever he can grab. The scary part? The next time he gets a shot at legitimacy, he won't just sabotage it. He'll weaponize it and drag Kim right into the blast radius. So when Jimmy pivots into elder law, it looks like a redemption arc. On paper, this is the wholesome version of the guy. No mailroom, no slippin' Jimmy, just a lawyer helping sweet old ladies with their wills. Sandpiper, the Jello cups, the bingo nights. You watch him work that room and it's honestly kind of adorable. He remembers names, listens to stories, laughs at the same joke for the 5th time like it's brand new. And it's not fake. You can tell he actually likes these people. But here's the thing. He also sees them as the perfect mark, a captive audience that can't leave, lonely, bored, and desperate for anyone who'll pay attention. Think about it. Every Jello cup has his business card taped to it. Every bingo game turns into a soft pitch. He's not just visiting, he's running the slowest, friendliest con of his life. The line between community service and marketing stunt is already suspiciously thin. Then, the suits and the TV ads hit. This is the real pivot. Suddenly, Jimmy is in those loud, slightly tacky outfits, standing in front of green screen American flags and Constitution graphics, yelling at Albuquerque like a late-night mattress salesman who passed the bar. At the time, it feels like a joke, but it's a clue. He discovers that spectacle works. The phones ring. The seniors call. The Sandpiper case blows up. And when the bar frowns on his tactics, he loves it. The disapproval is a rush. Every eye roll from a real lawyer is proof, in his mind, that he's cracked some secret code they're too stiff to use. To be fair, he is reaching people the fancy firms ignore. But still, another missed opportunity for him to slow down and ask why he needs the spotlight so badly. Watch how he starts bending the rules around solicitation and advertising. He pushes into restricted areas, slides his flyers where he shouldn't, stages those big emotional TV spots without proper approval. Then he builds this whole moral justification around it. These people are getting robbed. I'm the only one who cares. Who's really the bad guy here? Hear me out. That's classic conman logic. You break the rules, then convince yourself you're the hero for doing it. The practice becomes secondary to the performance. He doesn't just want to win cases. He wants to be recognized in the grocery store, talked about at bingo, replayed on TV. That hunger to be a name, a character, is exactly what future cartel clients will latch onto. They don't just want a lawyer, they want a show. So you have to ask, is elder law Jimmy still salvageable? Or has he already decided that success only counts if it feels like a con? Because once that answer locks in, Saul Goodman isn't a mask anymore. He's the main event. So if elder law Jimmy is already turning himself into a show, Chuck is the one who finally tells him what kind of show he's watching. And it's brutal. This isn't a judge, or a client, or some random partner. This is the one person Jimmy has been trying to impress since he stopped slipping on ice for nickels. The Pimento parking garage. That confrontation is the real verdict on Jimmy McGill. Chuck lays it out. Jimmy isn't a real lawyer. He's slippin' Jimmy with a law degree. Not just sloppy. Not just cutting corners. Fundamentally illegitimate. Think about it. Jimmy can survive getting barred from a case, losing a client, even being humiliated by Howard. But hearing his own brother say his entire identity is a con, that's a different level of damage. And Jimmy's reaction is the clue that really matters. He doesn't explode. He doesn't start screaming about all the nights in the mailroom or sleeping on that pull-out couch. He just deflates. You can see it on his face. The shoulders drop. The jokes stop. It's like he suddenly believes the jury's been fixed this whole time, and he never had a shot. In Chuck's eyes, the respectable version of Jimmy is obviously fake. So what's left? Here's the thing. That speech becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy the second Jimmy accepts it as true. If the person whose opinion you've chased your whole life decides you're permanently guilty, why keep playing by their rules? To be fair, Jimmy has always been good at the illegitimate stuff. Reading people, spotting angles, turning a boring situation into a scam that somehow works. Chuck basically tells him, that's all you are. And Jimmy, instead of rejecting that, quietly files it under evidence. But still, another missed opportunity. Because there is an off-ramp right there. Jimmy could cut Chuck out, move to another city, start fresh at some strip mall law office where no one knows Slippin' Jimmy. He could double down on elder law, keep doing the honest grind that was finally starting to pay off. He could even leave Albuquerque and never hear the name McGill in a courtroom again. That's all on the table in that moment. Hear me out though, he doesn't take any of those options. Because walking away would mean admitting Chuck's judgment actually matters. So instead, he stays in orbit. He keeps circling him, keeps trying to win Kim, clients, judges, basically the entire world as a witness to prove Chuck wrong. Not by being good, by being undeniable. And that's where the Saul persona starts to look less like a costume and more like a weapon. Which leads to the first truly unforgivable step, Mesa Verde. The forgery isn't just a shortcut, it's Jimmy saying, if you won't recognize me as a real lawyer, I'll beat you with the tools you're too ethical to touch. It's his way of cross-examining Chuck's prophecy. But the verdict that comes out of that stunt, that's going to push Jimmy so far outside the law that coming back as Jimmy McGill-esque might not even be an option anymore. Mesa Verde is the turning point. Not because of the bank itself, but because this is the first time Jimmy doesn't just bend the rules, he torches them on purpose, with a smile, and calls it love. The setup is brutal. Kim finally claws her way out of him, eats dirt in doc review, and lands Mesa Verde as her big, life-changing client. It's her shot, her name on the door. And right when it actually works, Chuck swoops in. He plays the elder statesman, whispers in Kevin's ear, and suddenly Mesa Verde is back at him. Kim's dream evaporates in a single lunch meat. At the time, it looks like standard corporate poaching. But think about it. For Jimmy, this is every resentment he's ever had toward him replaying in HD. He sees Kim humiliated in that conference room. He hears Chuck's subtext loud and clear. Real lawyers stay at him. Jimmy's little girlfriend doesn't belong in the big leagues. That's the clue that really sets him off. Chuck isn't just stealing a client. He's confirming Jimmy's worst fear, that the game is rigged against people like them. And Jimmy, who just promised he'd do things the right way, decides the right way is for suckers. So he breaks bad in the most Jimmy McGill way possible. No guns, no cartel, just a copier, some whiteout, and a key. He sneaks into Chuck's house while his brother is wrapped in his space blanket. Pretending the outside world is poison, he pulls the Mesa Verde files, calmly changes a couple address numbers, and trusts his con artist instincts more than any legal argument Kim could make. It's tiny on paper. 2 digits. But here's the thing. Those 2 digits are a felony, a direct attack on Chuck's credibility, and a bet that his scam skills are worth more than Kim's actual lawyering. On the surface, it looks like he's helping her. He gets Mesa Verde kicked back to Kim when the filing error blows up in Chuck's face. Win-win, right? Hear me out. By helping her like this, he undercuts the very thing Kim is trying to build. Legitimacy. She wants to prove she can stand on her own. Jimmy proves, behind her back, that he doesn't believe the system will ever recognize that. And when Chuck starts sniffing around, every suspicious detail Jimmy at the copy shop, the weird timing, the perfect mistake just confirms Chuck's darkest theory. Jimmy will always take the crooked path. This is an off-ramp moment in Neon. Jimmy could have doubled down on their little shared office, taken the boring wills and small-time clients, and slowly turned Wexler McGill into a real firm. Instead, he chooses the theatrical shortcut, the one that brands him as untrustworthy to the one person whose opinion still shapes his entire world. From that point on, any judge, bar committee, or cop who doubts Jimmy isn't just biased. They're right. And once being right about him stops mattering in polite society, he starts drifting toward a world where truth is optional and results are all that count. The criminal underworld that's waiting just off screen. And that's exactly the mindset he walks into the bar hearing with. Truth is already optional. What matters now is who tells the better story. The courtroom meltdown. This is Jimmy McGill's Super Bowl, and he treats it like one. You've got the full crowd, the bar panel, partners, Howard in the pews, and Chuck ready to finally, officially, label his brother as unfit. On paper, Jimmy is cornered. He did break into Chuck's house. He did alter those Mesa Verde files. The evidence is solid. But here's the thing. Jimmy doesn't try to win on the facts. He and Kim build a show. They plant the battery on Huell. They coach the copy shop guy. They turn Chuck's condition into Exhibit A. At the time, it looks clever. You watch them rehearse the angles like they're staging a magic trick, and you almost forget this is his own brother on the stand. Think if Jimmy could aim for a quiet deal, accept a suspension, eat the humiliation, and walk away with his family barely intact. Instead, he chooses the one path that requires Chuck to break in public. He needs Chuck to snap. That's the win condition. When it finally happens, it's brutal. Chuck starts so controlled, so certain, dismantling Jimmy's character in front of everyone. Then, Jimmy springs the battery reveal, the cross-exam, the slow realization that Chuck has been standing next to an electrical device for hours. And then the rant. Chuck spirals into that furious monologue about Jimmy being like an alcoholic who will hurt everyone around him, his voice cracking as the room turns on him. Watch Jimmy's face in that moment. The show gives you every micro-expression. First, a flicker of horror, because this is the exact nightmare he's heard in private, now blasted to the entire legal community. Then, relief. The panel is clearly rattled, Howard looks crushed, the colleagues are whispering. Jimmy's won. And under all that, a tiny, suspicious glint of satisfaction. The story landed. Chuck looks unstable, Jimmy looks like the wronged little brother, but still, another missed opportunity. He saves his license in the short term, sure, but he nukes everything else. Chuck's credibility as the hyper-rational legal mind of Albuquerque is gone. His standing at him is shattered. Their relationship? Toast. This is the exact humiliation that accelerates Chuck's depression, his career implosion, and, the despair that ends with that house fire. Hear me out. This is self-destruction disguised as victory. Jimmy proves he's the clever one in the room, but the cost is losing the only person whose approval he's chased his whole life. Being seen as smart, as the guy who outwitted the great Charles McGill, matters more to him than the long-term emotional fallout. And when Chuck dies, he never really processes that. To be fair, how could he? Instead of grief, he puts on louder colors, bigger jokes, and turns Saul Goodman into armor. That courtroom performance becomes the template. If you can't live with what you did, just turn up the volume. The problem is, once you start solving guilt with performance, where does that stop? The $5,000 check. This is where grief turns into a bit. We're at the will reading. Howard is practically dissolving in guilt, trying to be dignified while his voice keeps cracking. He lays out Chuck's final plan, a scholarship fund in Chuck's name, money to him, carefully itemized bequests. It's all very noble, very controlled, very Charles McGill-esque. And then Jimmy gets $5,000. Not the house, not the library, not even a letter with some half-hearted, "I was hard on you, but I believed in you." Just a token check and a posthumous reminder that Chuck's real legacy is the law, not his little brother. At the time, Jimmy laughs it off. He does the fake smile, the no-big-deal routine. But think about it. This is the moment it becomes evident that Chuck's final judgment never changed. On paper, Jimmy is worth less than a used car. Here's the thing. That check isn't just petty. It's a verdict. Chuck is still saying from beyond the grave that Jimmy is a danger who needs to be kept at arm's length. Every fear Jimmy ever had about how his brothers saw him just got notarized. Jimmy could sit with that. He could actually grieve, admit that he wanted love, and got a payout instead. But he doesn't. He cashes the check, parks the pain, and turns it into material. You see it later with the scholarship committee. On paper, this is the off-ramp. Chuck's fund is literally designed to help kids like Slippin' Jimmy avoid becoming, well, Slippin' Jimmy. He sits in judgment, hears all the essays, all the carefully curated I've turned my life around stories. And then they single out the girl with the shoplifting charge. The committee passes on her. Too risky. Too much of a red flag. They pick the safe kids, the ones who already learned the right lesson. To be fair, from a conservative legal perspective, it's not the craziest call. But Jimmy? He waits for her in the parking lot. He tracks her down just to blow up the moral of the story. He tells her straight, people like them don't get forgiven. The game is rigged. If they're going to slap you with criminal no matter what, you might as well lean into it. Hear me out. This is Jimmy recreating his own origin story in real time. Instead of warning her away from his path, he validates her worst impulses. He takes Chuck's scholarship, this last attempt at doing good, and twists it into a recruitment drive for future Saul Goodmans. It's dark, and it's incredibly revealing, because that's his coping mechanism. If Chuck was right, if Jimmy really is dangerous, then the only way to live with that is to pretend the whole system is a joke. The law is fake, the rules are fake, the only honest move is to hustle harder. Pain becomes punchline, rejection becomes license. And that's the missed off-ramp. Chuck's death could have been the moment Jimmy honors his brother by finally becoming the straight-arrow lawyer Chuck demanded. Instead, he reads that $5,000 as a final screw you, and takes it as permission to stop trying. From here, Saul Goodman isn't just catchy branding, it's a burial, a way to kill Jimmy McGill, the brother and son who could still be hurt. But if Jimmy is dead, and Saul is just a costume, what happens the first time the mask slips? The mask slipping starts in the most boring place possible. A bar hearing, a room full of suits, stale coffee, and people who think character is something you can summarize in 3 references. Jimmy stands up and does the performance of his life. He cries. He sells remorse. He weaponizes Chuck's memory in a way that, if you've watched his whole journey, feels almost physically uncomfortable. The committee buys it. They're moved. Then he drops it, casually, like it's nothing. He mentions he'll be practicing under a different name. Saul Goodman. At the time, it just sounds like a punchline. He plays it off as marketing, as a way to appeal to the homeboys and stand out in a crowded market. The room barely reacts. No one objects. No one asks, wait, why are you already planning to be someone else? That silence is a clue. It's the system missing the fact that a man is holding his own funeral in front of them. Because here's the thing. After Chuck's death, after that will that leaves him the infamous $5,000 and a library full of resentment, Jimmy McGill becomes contaminated. To Jimmy, that name is now welded to shame, failure, and the feeling that no matter what he does, he will always be the screw-up little brother who ruins everything. Think about it. Every time someone says McGill, he hears Chuck's voice, not his own. Saul Goodman is the escape hatch. Saul isn't the kid in the mailroom begging for a chance. Saul isn't the guy crying in the copy shop after Mesa Verde. Saul is a cartoon, a neon sign in human form. You can't really hurt a cartoon, right? You just squash it flat and it pops back up in the next frame. And that's where the self-destruction gets subtle. The name change isn't just branding, it's a compartment. If Saul does something shady, that's not Jimmy's fault. That's just what the market demands. It becomes easier to say yes to the sketchy client, to cut the ethical corner, to look at cartel money and see opportunity instead of a giant red flag. He can always tell himself, Jean in Omaha can feel bad about this later. Saul's just doing business. Watch Kim in that moment. She laughs. She smirks. On the surface, she's amused by the cheesiness of Saul Goodman, but her eyes do something else. They narrow for half a second. It's that tiny, uneasy look that says she knows this isn't just a bit anymore. The persona and the person are starting to blur, and if Saul wins, what happens to the guy she actually loves? Pattern interrupt. Imagine if the hearing had said no. No Saul, no license. Would Jimmy have been forced to stay Jimmy? Or would he have found an even riskier way to bury himself? Because the first big test of this new identity is coming fast. The TV ad blitz, the loud suits, the late-night commercials, the flood of clients who see a cartoon lawyer and think, perfect, This guy won't ask questions. And once Saul Goodman turns himself into a brand, the kind of trouble that brand attracts is going to make slipping Jimmy look tame. And the scary part? By then, Jimmy will be the one who's hard to find. The ad blitz. This is where Jimmy stops flirting with Saul Goodman and just marries the guy. Those late-night commercials? They aren't just marketing. They're a full personality transplant, broadcast every 15 minutes between mattress sales and used car lots. You remember how they look. The bad green screen courthouse, the spinning Constitution, Saul in the loud suit, pointing at the camera with that cheesy "Better Call Saul" slogan like he's selling discount fireworks. It's so over the top it loops back around into genius. He buys the cheapest, trashiest time slots, the exact hours when the lonely, the desperate, and the very, very guilty are awake and flipping channels. At the time, it just plays as a joke. He's a local meme. But think about it, that's the point. On paper, this is smart. It really is. He's been reinstated, he needs clients, and traditional referrals are slow. So he manufactures volume. High visibility, high call volume, fast cash. Any business textbook would say, sure, target an underserved market. To be fair, he's doing exactly that. But here's the thing. The market he's tapping is people who see a cartoon lawyer and think, perfect, this guy won't ask questions. That's not a red flag. That's an entire red banner. Look at who shows up. Street dealers, low-level scammers, people already halfway in the game who now have a lawyer basically advertising, I specialize in getting obviously guilty people off on technicalities. It's evident that this isn't pulling in Mesa Verde-type clients. This is a magnet for the kind of cases that brush up against the cartel, even if he can't see it yet. And that's the self-sabotage. Jimmy just fought tooth and nail to get his license back. Kim is right there, willing to help him slowly rebuild something respectable with banking work, pro bono cases, a real foundation. Instead, he burns that fresh start on a high-risk, high-volume hustle that lives or dies on how outrageous he can be. He doesn't just open a practice, he opens a circus tent and dares the universe to send in the biggest freaks. Why? Because being the loudest lawyer in town finally makes him feel seen. Never gave him that. There, he was the mailroom kid who didn't belong. With the ad blitz, every phone call is proof he exists. People know his name. They quote his lines. Hear me out. He's not chasing money first. He's chasing that hit of recognition, and the money just rides shotgun. And one caller in that flood is the perfect embodiment of that trade-off. A smiling, polite, incredibly dangerous man named Lalo Salamanca. Attention and cash now. Catastrophic consequences later. Saul doesn't know it yet, but when he picks up that call, the cartoon lawyer the commercials created is finally going to meet a client who takes that cartoon dead serious. Lalo's call is the moment the cartoon meets the cartel. But Kim? Kim sees the danger a lot earlier. Long before Lalo walks into that office, she's already clocking that Saul Goodman isn't just a marketing gimmick. He's a loaded gun pointed at both of them. Watch her during those early Saul Goodman days. The loud ties, the over-the-top client pitches. He's bouncing around the lobby like he's hosting a game show. And she's there on the sidelines, smiling. But look closer. The smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. It's subtle, but it's a red flag. You can almost feel her thinking, okay, this is funny. Until it isn't. The bowling balls. This is where it stops being cute. Jimmy, now fully in Saul mode, lobs bowling balls at Howard's car like it's some prank from his Slippin' Jimmy highlight reel. Kim laughs when he first tells her. Then she realizes he's not joking. Her face drops. The air goes out of the room. That's the shift. The stunt is obviously petty. But here's the thing. It's also the first time she sees the Saul persona aiming real damage at someone just because it feels good. And then you get the line in the sand. The "I like Jimmy." I'm not sure about Saul Goodman conversation. On the surface, it sounds playful, like she's teasing him about the name. But think about it. She's drawing a boundary. She's telling him the persona is starting to feel like a wall between them, a mask he can hide behind when things get ugly. It's not just branding anymore. It's distance. To be fair, this is the off-ramp moment. Kim is basically handing him the map. Choose the quieter, more ethical path. Stay Jimmy, and you keep me. It's all right there. Her discomfort is evident, her concern is obvious, and she's saying it out loud, which Kim almost never does unless it's serious. Jimmy hears it, but he doesn't really listen. He processes it as a challenge. Instead of dialing Saul back, he doubles down. Bigger cons, flashier schemes, the Mesa Verde sabotage, the courtroom theatrics, the TV ad blitz right after he gets reinstated. He's trying to impress her by proving that Saul can bend the world and get away with it. Hear me out. In his mind, success as Saul is the only way to not be ordinary, and being ordinary feels like death. And this is another missed opportunity. If he'd chosen Jimmy over Saul here, Kim probably never leaves. But he keeps picking the thrill over the relationship, one suspicious stunt at a time. So when she finally walks away later, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's the bill for every ignored warning, every red flag he laughed off. Because the next time Kim crosses a line with him, she won't just be warning him about danger. She'll be helping him build it. Slipping Kevin Wachtel. This is where the con officially becomes more important than the case. And the scary part? Jimmy doesn't need the con at all. The setup is simple. Kim is going after Mesa Verde, trying to force a better settlement after they yank their business from her and run back to Schweikart and Coakley. She's got leverage, she's got a solid legal position, and she's got Kevin Wachtel on the ropes over his expansion plans. At the time, it's pretty obvious, if they just hammer the law and the PR angle, Mesa Verde folds. But here's the thing about Saul Goodman. Just win is never enough. He wants to win with fireworks. So instead of letting Kim's arguments do the work, he stages this ridiculous photo shoot. Kevin, supposedly this upstanding bank CEO, caught walking out of a tacky strip mall branch that looks like the opposite of Mesa Verde's polished image. It's not real, it's a setup, and Jimmy is practically giddy showing Kim how they can slip this into the negotiation packet to embarrass him into caving. Think about it. This isn't life or death cartel business. This is a corporate dispute where Kim already has the upper hand. This is not a desperate Hail Mary. To be fair, when Jimmy fakes evidence against Chuck with the Mesa Verde documents, you can at least argue he's cornered. Here, Kim has clean leverage, regulatory complaints, Kevin ignoring her advice, his stubborn pattern of bad calls. She can just walk into that conference room and beat them straight. But Jimmy can't resist adding a humiliating twist, turning a normal negotiation into a magic trick, where he gets to say, "Look how smart I am." And that's where the self-sabotage kicks in. By dragging Kim into this stunt, he doesn't just bend the rules himself, he pulls her across the line with him. She reviews the photos. She doesn't walk out. She lets that packet go on the table. Suddenly, from her boss's perspective, Kim Wexler isn't just the diligent associate anymore. She's the woman whose boyfriend runs shady cons, and who somehow keeps ending up on the same side as his schemes. Another missed opportunity to keep her reputation clean. You can see the deeper flaw crystal clear here. Jimmy doesn't just want the win on paper. He wants the style points, the rush of proving he's smarter than the fancy bankers and the white shoe lawyers who wrote him off. But that kind of victory has a cost. Trust. Stability. Every time he chooses spectacle over substance, he makes it a little easier for people to see him as suspicious and a little harder for anyone to bet their future on him. And watch Kim in that scene. She's nervous, but she's also thrilled. Hear me out. This is one of the first times she visibly crosses a line with him and doesn't immediately slam on the brakes. That shared jolt of "we got away with it" becomes its own drug. After this, they're not just partners in law. They're partners in the next con they cook up together, it won't stop at a strip mall photo. And once they're partners in the game, Jimmy does the most on-brand thing possible. He tries to turn the game into a contract. The marriage. The proposal in the apartment after the courthouse disaster. At first, it sounds almost normal. They've just survived the disciplinary hearing. They're exhausted. They're eating takeout on the couch. Then, Jimmy casually drops it. They should get married. Not because he can't live without her, but because spousal privilege will keep them from testifying against each other. Think about it. The guy who once poured his heart out about wanting to be worthy of Kim now sells marriage like a legal service. He literally frames it as a way to protect them from any future fallout from their cons. It's not flowers and a ring, it's, if we're married, they can't put us on the stand. That's the pitch. Kim's reaction is so telling. She laughs at first because it sounds like a bit. Then she realizes he's serious. You can see the gears turning. She does love him, that's evident. and part of her is weirdly impressed by how fast his brain jumps to the legal angle. But here's the thing, she also knows this is coming directly out of the mess they just made together. This isn't a clean romantic ask. It's tangled up with guilt, adrenaline, and the very real possibility that they just crossed a line they can't uncross. To be fair, Kim isn't some innocent bystander being dragged along. By this point, she's already chosen him over Mesa Verde, over the safe path, over every obvious red flag Chuck ever waved. But still, another missed opportunity. She could say, if the only way we feel safe is by gaming spousal privilege, maybe we shouldn't be doing what we're doing. Instead, she leans in. She says yes. On paper, it looks like commitment. In reality, it's self-sabotage dressed up as romance. By tying their legal fates together, Jimmy makes sure that if one of them goes down, the other is at least splashed with the fallout. Walking away clean becomes way harder. You're not just breaking up with your boyfriend, you're trying to disentangle yourself from your co-conspirator. He's basically betting both of their futures on his ability to keep all the plates spinning forever. And that comes with a quiet emotional cost. When your relationship is also your legal shield, every secret starts to feel like evidence. Every heartfelt conversation has a tiny, suspicious subtext. Are we talking as partners or as accomplices? The trust is still there, but it's been itemized and filed. Marriage, for them, becomes another clause in the scam. Hear me out. That's exactly why it hurts so much when Kim finally walks. She doesn't just leave a husband, she exits a criminal partnership she now sees with brutal clarity. Being with Jimmy doesn't mean being loved, it means being liable. And the cruel irony is that he's the one who handed her the legal language to define it that way. The next time we see that logic play out, it won't be about marriage papers. It'll be about something even colder. Plea deals, prison time, and how much of his soul Jimmy is willing to sign away. So when you cut from Kim dissecting liability to Saul Goodman strutting into that jail, you're watching the same logic get weaponized. Only now it's not about a marriage. It's about a man who genuinely believes he's untouchable. Enter Lalo Salamanca, the walking red flag in a patterned shirt. Their first real encounter in the visitation room is a masterclass in mixed signals. Lalo sits down all smiles, like he's about to pitch a startup instead of a murder defense. He's charming, relaxed, almost goofy. But listen to the details. He knows who Saul is. He's watched the commercials. He immediately pegs him as the guy, the lawyer who enjoys bending rules, not just tolerating it. That's not small talk, that's scouting. And Saul? He eats it up. Think about it. Every instinct should be screaming at him. This is cartel business. A Salamanca. People don't just lose cases around this guy, they lose bodies. He already knows what Tuco was like. He knows what Nacho's mixed up in. The pattern is obvious. Get close to these people, you get disappeared. But here's the thing. Instead of backing away, Jimmy hears the one thing he's been starving for his whole life. You're special. You're useful. You're the man we call when we're in trouble. That's not fear kicking in. That's ego. Taking Lalo's case is self-sabotage in a suit and tie. On paper, it's just another client. In reality, it's like putting a neon sign over his head that says "Insert lawyer" directly into cartel war. The moment he walks into that jail and says he'll help, he's not just helping Lalo. He's putting himself on the radar of every serious player in Albuquerque. The Salamanca's clocking. Gus Fring takes notice. Mike is suddenly forced to babysit him. Jimmy doesn't understand the war he's stepping into, but everyone else in that room does. To be fair, this is exactly what he built Saul Goodman to do. The late-night commercials, the cheesy slogans, the "I fight for you" routine. It's all a giant magnet for desperate, dangerous people. The persona is a dare. I'm the guy who can dance on the line and never fall. So when the fantasy finally answers back in the form of Lalo Salamanca, how is he supposed to say no? Walking away would mean admitting the character is a bluff. Staying means proving he's as fearless as the billboard. Hear me out. This is the moment the commercials become a contract. He's legally obligated to his own myth, and the bill for that myth comes due fast. Because the next time Lalo calls, it won't be from a jail cell. It'll send Saul into the desert with $7 million in cash, Mike Ehrmantraut at his side, and buzzards circling overhead. That's when the cost of this one decision stops being theoretical and starts being life or death. And even then, he still manages to miss the most obvious lesson. Bagman is the moment the fantasy should die. The cartoon lawyer act meets real bullets, real blood, and a real chance that Saul Goodman's story just ends in the sand with nobody even knowing where he went. Saul walks into the desert in that loud suit, hauling 2 duffel bags stuffed with $7 million in cartel cash. At the time, he still thinks he's running a clever errand. A little dangerous, sure. But he's the guy who talks his way out of anything, right? Then the trucks roll up. The ambush hits. And suddenly it's not a quirky side quest. It's a firing squad. Mike's rescue is precision shots, bodies dropping, trucks riddled with holes. Saul survives, but not because he's a player. He survives because Mike Ehrmantraut is very good at killing people. And the price of that survival is being stranded in the middle of nowhere, with no water, no shade, and $7 million that might as well weigh 1,000 pounds. This is where the armor starts peeling off. The suit is ruined. His shoes fall apart. He's stumbling through the desert, lips cracked, skin burning, dragging those bags like an anchor tied to his ego. He drinks his own urine out of a makeshift bladder. That's not a metaphor. That's on screen. Think about it. Saul Goodman, the man who sells himself as untouchable, reduced to crawling and sipping pee to stay alive. Here's the thing. If you were ever going to get a wake-up call, this is it. He sees the cartel world up close. No filter, no jokes. To be fair, he does panic. He cries. He begs Mike to leave the money. You can see the obvious truth hitting him. He is not some mastermind. He's a disposable courier, a middleman who almost died for a client he barely knows and definitely doesn't control. So this should be the off-ramp. Cut ties with Lalo. Cut ties with the cartel. Go back to wills and low-level crooks and boring, safe clients. But here's the thing. That's not what he does. Once he's back in civilization, he processes the entire ordeal like Chicago's Sunroof 2.0. Another wild story. Another near-miss anecdote he can file under crazy stuff I got away with instead of giant red flag I ignored. And that's the self-sabotage. He turns trauma into content. Instead of seeing a clue that the game will kill him, he treats it like proof he's invincible. But still, another missed opportunity. Pattern interrupt Kim. She doesn't laugh. She's horrified. Then she does something even more alarming. She goes straight to Lalo herself. No Mike, no backup, just raw fury. That decision is the beginning of the end for their relationship, and for any illusion that Saul can keep his cartoon world and the cartel world separate. From this point on, every move he makes pulls Kim deeper into danger, and that's a bill he can't dodge forever. Kim marches home from that parking garage and walks straight into the lion's den. Literally, Lalo Salamanca is just sitting there, on their couch, legs crossed, like he's waiting for room service instead of checking whether Jimmy stole $7 million from the cartel. The living room. The first real collision of Saul's cartoon world with cartel reality. At the time, it almost feels surreal. Lalo's being chatty, almost friendly, casually grilling Jimmy about the desert, the car, the broken-down story he's already told. And Jimmy is crumbling. His answers are shaky, his eyes keep darting to the door, to Kim, to anywhere but Lalo's face. Then Kim steps in. This is the pivot. She doesn't just defend Jimmy, she dismantles Lalo. Piece by piece. She calls out how suspicious it is that he sent Jimmy alone with that much cash. She points out the obvious. If Lalo really trusted his own people, Jimmy wouldn't have been out there in the first place. Think about it. She's talking to a man who burns people alive in compounds, and she's basically giving him a performance review. Watch Jimmy's face during that speech. That's the clue to what's really going on inside him. You see terror, because for the first time, Kim isn't just in the blast radius of his choices, she's in the crosshairs. You see awe, because she's fearless in a way he pretends to be, but isn't. And you see something else too, a flicker of shame. He knows he folded in that desert, he knows he lied, and now Kim is the one standing between them and a bullet. Here's the thing, this night is a giant flashing red flag. Cartel violence has literally walked into their home, onto their couch, onto their shared toothbrush holder. Basically, Kim survives this only because she's willing to bluff a man who kills for fun and treats it like a hobby. That is not a sustainable safety plan. And yet, look at what Jimmy does with that information. This is an off-ramp so big it might as well have exit lights. He could say, "We're done, we're leaving Albuquerque, no more cons, no more cartel-adjacent anything." He could push for a boring, straight practice where the worst client is a shoplifter, not a Salamanca. But he doesn't. He lets Kim steep. To be fair, she's the one who comes back the next day talking about going harder at Howard, not backing off. But here's the thing. He doesn't resist. He doesn't say, "We almost died. I'm out." He smiles. He hesitates for half a second. And then he signs up. Again, hear me out. This is one of Jimmy's most quietly destructive choices. Not a gunfight, not a forged document, just passivity. He stops treating Kim as his conscience and starts treating her as his partner in crime. And from that moment, the question isn't whether they'll crash. It's how bad it's going to be when they finally hit the wall. So when they finally pick a target together, it's not a cartel boss or a corrupt judge. It's Howard Hamlin, the guy with the perfect hair and the slightly smug smile. And the way they go after him tells you everything about where Jimmy is now. The Howard scam is not one move. It's a season-long opera. First, the golf club humiliation. Jimmy shows up at Howard's country club as Saul Goodman, gets deliberately snubbed, then engineers that petty revenge where Howard is made to look like a jerk in front of his rich buddies. Small, right? But think about it. That's the opening beat of a much bigger character assassination. Then come the fake cocaine photos, the planted baggie in Howard's locker, the staged coked-up behavior with the hooker in the car. Piece by piece, Jimmy and Kim build this very specific narrative. Howard Hamlin, respected partner, is secretly a drug addict. It's elaborate, it's cruel, and it's designed to be just believable enough that people who already think Howard is uptight will buy it. On paper, the justification sounds almost noble. Get Howard discredited, push the Sandpiper case to settle faster, and all those elderly clients finally get their money. Jimmy gets his payday. Kim gets resources for her pro bono dreams. Win-win, right? But here's the thing. The more you watch them work, the more that reason starts to feel like a legal brief they're filing with themselves. Look at their faces during the scam. The giddy planning sessions with the sticky notes. The rehearsal of Howard's drugged behavior. The way Kim lights up when a clue lands exactly where she wanted it to. To be fair, the settlement money is real. But the real prize is that rush of outsmarting Howard, the man they both resent for different reasons. And that's where the self-sabotage kicks in. Howard isn't Lalo. He's not Gus. He's not going to kill them. He's an annoying, prideful colleague who once blocked Jimmy's career and tried to steer Kim. Destroying him yields very little actual gain compared to the risk. It drags Clifford Maine, the whole firm, and a massive class action into their blast radius. It makes their behavior way more suspicious if anyone ever connects the dots. Hear me out. This is Jimmy's core flaw, turned up to 11. He keeps escalating the level of manipulation and danger, not because he has to, but because the con is where he feels most alive. The straight path bores him. The honest settlement is another missed opportunity for a thrill. So he builds a Rube Goldberg machine around a man who, in the grand scheme, barely matters. And all of that fun is what puts Howard in their apartment on the worst night of their lives. When Lalo walks through that door and Howard drops dead at their feet, the bill for every joke, every fake baggie, every smug little victory finally comes due. The real question is how Jimmy responds to that shock, and why his answer is to dive even deeper into Saul Goodman. Howard's death. This is the night everything should have stopped. Not the cons, not the games, not just the Saul Goodman commercials. The whole persona. Howard walks in like the ghost of consequences. Calm, composed, and absolutely done being their punching bag. He lays it all out in that living room, the scam, the humiliation, the obvious cruelty. He's not stupid, and for once, Jimmy and Kim have to sit there and listen while the guy they treated like a joke calls them out to their faces. And then, the door opens. Lalo steps out of the shadows. Wrong show, wrong universe, wrong genre. You can feel the air change. Howard barely has time to register that this isn't about him before Lalo casually puts a bullet in his head. No build-up, no speech, just a sudden, brutal gunshot. Howard's body hits the floor in their apartment, blood spreading on the tiles where they eat breakfast. Think about it. This is every part of Jimmy's double life smashing together in one frame. Watch Jimmy in those next few seconds. He's in shock, sure, but it's more than that. His eyes go wide, his brain just disconnects. He freezes, then immediately shifts into this weird automatic compliance. Lalo talks, Jimmy nods. Lalo gives orders. Jimmy follows. He suppresses the screaming panic because survival mode kicks in. To be fair, most people would do whatever Lalo Salamanca says at gunpoint. But here's the thing, you can already see the dissociation that will become Saul Goodman's entire coping strategy. Don't feel it. Don't process it. Just move. And the awful part is how directly this is on them. Howard is only in that room because of the scam, because of the fake drug addiction, because they needed one more gotcha to feel clever. Lalo is only at that door because Jimmy chose cartel money, cartel clients, cartel shortcuts. The con and the cartel collide, and the result is a dead man on the floor. It's the most obvious red flag the universe could throw at Jimmy that his game is over. This is the off-ramp. Right here. He could confess everything to the cops. He could walk into a station covered in blood and say, "I'm Jimmy McGill. This is what I did. I'm done." He could at least decide, in that moment, that Saul Goodman is finished, that the commercials and the bravado are just radioactive now. Hear me out. If any night is going to break his soul enough to change, it should be the night he watches an innocent man die because of his lies. Instead, he and Kim stage a suicide. They move the body. They help smear Howard's name, letting his colleagues and family think he was a depressed coke addict who snapped. It's monstrous, and it's also Jimmy doing what he always does when backed into a corner, doubling down on another missed opportunity to be honest, buried under just one more cover-up. Kim can't live with that. Her eventual decision to leave isn't random. It's her trying to take that off-ramp way, way too late. She chooses accountability, confession, a small life without the game. Jimmy's response is the opposite. He goes Allen on Saul Goodman. Louder suits, louder ads, louder denial, because facing what Jimmy McGill did in that apartment would mean admitting that the joke stopped being funny a long time ago. And once he commits to that denial, every choice he makes after Howard's death only pushes him further from the man who might have stopped, and closer to the one who never will. Kim walking out. This is the real point of no return, even more than Howard's death. Because Howard, Kim is about identity. The breakup scene. You remember it. The apartment is half-packed, half-destroyed, and completely quiet. No shouting match, no dramatic ultimatums, just Kim calmly zipping up bags while Jimmy keeps trying to rewind reality with small talk. And then she drops the line that cuts deeper than any courtroom defeat. Being with him doesn't make her better. It makes her worse. Think about it. This is the one person who always saw the best version of Jimmy McGill. The guy who could out-hustle the world but still go home and brush his teeth next to her like a normal human being. When she says we're bad for each other, it's not just a breakup. It's a verdict. Jimmy isn't just a screw-up who can improve. He's radioactive. Now watch his response. He's clearly shattered. His face falls, his voice cracks. He throws out these weak little offers to fix things, like they can just move or take a break. But here's the thing. He never actually promises to change. He doesn't say, "I'll stop the cons. I'll get help. I'll walk away from the game." Instead, you see him shut down in real time. He goes numb, almost like he accepts that, of course, this is how it was always going to end. That's the ultimate off-ramp. If Jimmy truly wanted to save himself, this is the moment. The universe is basically screaming at him, walk away. Get therapy. Quit criminal clients. Go teach law at some community college where the most dangerous thing is a parking dispute. To be fair, he's in shock, he's grieving, he's drowning in guilt over Howard. But still, another missed opportunity. Instead of grabbing the lifeline, he chooses sedation, emotional anesthesia. And that's where the self-sabotage kicks into overdrive. Rather than confront the obvious truth that his choices destroyed the only real relationship he ever had, he builds a mask thick enough that nobody can ever get close enough to hurt him again. Saul Goodman stops being a character he plays and starts being the only person he's willing to be. No vulnerability, no honesty, just jokes, deals, and non-stop motion, so he never has to sit still long enough to feel abandoned. Hear me out. The show even underlines it with that brutal time jump. 1 minute, he's standing in that empty apartment, stunned, cut forward, and suddenly you're in a loud, gaudy office that looks like a constitution exploded on the walls. The waiting room is packed with criminals, the suits are louder, the ties are uglier, the ads are everywhere. And Jimmy McGill? He's gone. Not arrested. Not killed. Just erased. The breakup doesn't just hurt him. It finishes the transformation he's been rehearsing for years. And the next time we see him try to live without the game, in Omaha, you'll notice he still can't do it. So when Jimmy McGill gets erased, what fills the space? Full Saul mode. The strip mall empire. The office that looks less like a law firm and more like a carnival that lost a zoning dispute. You know this place. Constitution wallpaper, floor to ceiling. An inflatable Statue of Liberty wobbling on the roof like it's trying to defect. The waiting room jammed with Dewey guys, scam artists, cartel runners, and people who definitely paid in cash. It's loud, it's tacky, it's chaotic. And that's the point. This isn't just bad taste. This is architecture as anesthesia. Think about it. Every inch of that office is designed to keep Saul constantly stimulated. Phones ringing, clients arguing, commercials looping, Francesca funneling crisis after crisis through his door. No quiet moments, no empty afternoons. No chance for a random thought like, hey, remember Chuck? To slip through. The decor is a clue. The Constitution wallpaper says, I'm legit, I swear. The Statue of Liberty says, I'm a joke. And you're in on it. That tension lets him live in a permanent bit. As long as he's performing Saul Goodman, he never has to sit alone as Jimmy McGill. Alone is dangerous. Alone is when regret starts talking. And look at the way the business runs. Walk-ins all day, late night calls, emergency bailouts. Saul makes sure his calendar is a disaster. But here's the thing. That chaos is a feature, not a bug. If every hour is booked, he never has to ask if any of this is good for him or for anyone else. This is where the self-sabotage becomes really obvious. By becoming indispensable to Albuquerque's criminal class, he basically handcuffs himself to the life he claims he just slid into. Cartel guys, low-level dealers, scammers, all of them learn one thing. When it all goes bad, you call Saul. That's not just a slogan. That's a trap. Because once you're the guy everyone calls, how do you walk away? If he quits, people go to prison, operations collapse, very scary men lose money. Suddenly, leaving isn't just scary, it's suicidal. To be fair, he didn't plan all of that out like a mastermind. But still, another missed opportunity to step back before the point of no return. Inside his own head, he tells a much nicer story. He's helping the little guy. He's the only one who cares about the people the system chews up. Hear me out. That story has just enough truth to be convincing, but it also conveniently erases any space for Jimmy's conscience. In this world, doing the right thing means getting a guilty client off on a technicality. Anything deeper than that? No room in the schedule. And that's exactly the Saul Goodman we meet in Breaking Bad. By the time Walter White walks into that office, Saul has already built the perfect playground for someone with Walt's appetite for risk. A client who wants reinvention, danger, and excuses, all wrapped in legalese. The question is, when those two finally collide, who's really using who? So when Walter White finally walks into Saul's orbit, it isn't some random client meeting. It's two addicts bumping into each other at the exact wrong time. One addicted to power, the other addicted to the game. The desert kidnapping. This is our first real collision. Walt and Jesse drag Saul out to that shallow grave, ski masks on, guns out. And Saul does what any normal person would do in that moment. He starts lawyering. He's bargaining, naming prices, tossing out options, even while he's on his knees. Now this might not seem like much, but think about it. Who looks at two guys about to kill him and immediately starts negotiating payment plans? And then, he clocks it. It wasn't me. It was Ignacio. Lalo didn't send you? That panic is real, but watch how fast it shifts. Saul studies Walt for maybe a minute before he lands on the obvious clue. This nervous chemistry teacher is actually Heisenberg. He puts it together off the RV, the blue product, the way Walt talks. To be fair, Saul is good at this. He can read people. But here's the thing. The second he realizes Walt is a high-earning meth cook, the fear doesn't just ease up. It flips into opportunity. You can almost see the dollar signs turn on behind the glasses. High-quality product, untapped market, a guy who clearly needs laundering, structure, excuses. Saul doesn't just see a client. He sees a chance to level up his whole roster. Strip mall, nobody's out. Kingpin in. Hear me out. In that grave, Saul is more excited by the potential retainer than he is scared of the gun. And this is another off-ramp. He could say, No drugs. Too hot. He could insist Walt keep a low profile. Small batches, boring money. Instead, he leans into the scale. He pitches the nail salon, the car wash, the shell corporations. He's not just helping Walt survive. He's actively building the empire infrastructure because it's fun. It's a puzzle. It scratches that same itch that forged Mesa Verde documents and cartel money runs did. But still, another missed opportunity. By tying himself to Walt, Saul steps straight into Dia crosshairs, cartel politics, and random explosions. He knows, on paper, what that means. He's seen what the cartel does. He's literally been dragged into the desert once already. Yet he signs up for round 2, 3, 4, all for a cut of the profits and the thrill of managing a rising kingpin. And here's the quiet self-sabotage. Saul underestimates Walt's capacity for destruction, sure, but he also underestimates his own capacity for self-harm. He thinks he's just skimming off the top of someone else's chaos. In reality, he's volunteering to be the guy standing next to the bomb when it goes off. The scary part? This won't be the last time. Because as Walt escalates, Saul keeps thinking he can stay one clever scheme ahead, and that delusion is about to drag him even deeper. So when Walt's money really starts rolling in, Saul doesn't slam the brakes. He opens a catalog. Money laundering, but make it retail. Laser tag. Nail salons. The A1A car wash. He's pitching felonies like he's brainstorming date night ideas. The laser tag scene says it all. Saul walks Walt through this ridiculous, neon-soaked arena and talks about it like a tax shelter out of a children's birthday party. To be fair, it's a clever cover. Cash business, plausible revenue spikes, lots of excuses for deposits. But here's the thing. The way Saul sells it, you almost forget they're talking about turning blood money into mortgage payments. It feels goofy, not lethal. Then you get the car wash. The exact place Walt used to be humiliated is now a perfectly legitimate front. Saul frames it as poetic justice, as if that emotional payoff is the real prize. Think about it. He's not just solving a financial problem, he's packaging vengeance as a business plan. And by making it sound normal, even kind of wholesome, he gives Walt emotional cover to escalate, without feeling like he's escalating. This is Saul's real trick. He takes something that should be an obvious red flag, and talks about it like it's just another Tuesday paperwork issue. Structuring deposits? No big deal. Shell companies? Standard practice. Buying a car wash with a duffel bag of cash? Hey, who's gonna ask? He turns "you are now committing major federal crimes" into "you are now a small business owner." But still, another missed opportunity. Because every time Saul drafts a bogus corporation or scripts Skylar's cover story, he's welding himself to Walt's empire. If the ears looks at those books, Saul's name is all over the strategy. If the Dia ever follows the money, every clever workaround is a breadcrumb trail labeled Saul Goodman, architect. This is the Jimmy pattern scaled up. In Better Call Saul, you see it in miniature. He forges Mesa Verde documents to win one battle with Chuck, and it detonates his career. He runs those shady TV ads after getting reinstated, and suddenly he's back on the radar for every scam artist in Albuquerque. Short-term win, long-term disaster. Same brain, same impulse, just a bigger stage now. Hear me out. The laundering schemes are Jimmy's showmanship addiction in financial form. He doesn't ask, what does this tie me to in 5 years? He asks, can I pull this off in 5 minutes? And because he can, he does. So when the empire finally collapses, Saul running to Omaha isn't about one bad day. It's the bill coming due on 1,000 little solutions that all pointed in the same direction. Deeper in, never out. And the next time Walt needs something even riskier, Saul's already too invested to walk away. Or at least, he thinks he is. The tragedy is how far he's willing to go before he even tests that assumption. The second cell phone. This should have been the blaring siren that something was fundamentally wrong. But for Saul, it's just Tuesday. Think about it. From the mall bench, to the nail salon office, to the back of a nail salon in Breaking Bad, Saul is constantly pushing burner phones, secret numbers, and coded phrases like they're basic office supplies. You don't put a guy like Walt on hold, never use your real name. Call this number. Don't save it. He treats that stuff as standard practice, not as clues that everyone involved is living a dangerously fractured life. On the surface, it's just criminal procedure. You're dealing with meth dealers and cartel guys, of course you use burners. But here's the thing. Saul doesn't just use the tools, he lives the mindset. One phone for the wife, one for the girlfriend, one number for legit clients, one for the real money. Every time he normalizes that for someone else, he's reinforcing it for himself. Secrecy stops being suspicious. It becomes efficient. And that's exactly where the psychological split comes in. Jimmy versus Saul is basically a human version of the second cell phone. You've got the Jimmy line, the one that still rings for Kim, for his old ideals, for the kid who wanted Chuck's approval. Then you've got the Saul line, the performance, the cartoon lawyer, the guy who can talk his way out of anything as long as he never lets the two signals cross. He treats those identities like apps he can close. Feeling guilty about forging Mesa Verde documents? Turn that phone off. Feeling scared after almost dying in the desert with Mike and Bagman? Turn that phone off too. That was cartel business. This is just lawyering. Hear me out. Every time he flips that internal switch, it gets easier to tell himself that the next extreme move is just part of the job. That's the self-sabotage hiding inside all the burners. The more he sells secrecy as normal, the easier it is to rationalize anything. Helping Lalo get bail? Just another client. Laundering money through a car wash? Just another solution. To be fair, at the time each step feels isolated, but still another missed opportunity to ask, why do I need this many compartments just to live with myself? Which is why Gene in Omaha hits so hard. The visual is almost funny if it wasn't so bleak. A Cinnabon manager, alone in a beige apartment, hunched over a payphone like it's a portal to another universe. No Bluetooth, no burner flip phone, just this clunky relic he uses to poke at his old life. That call to the vacuum guy. The way he tests the line with that frantic, whispered Saul Goodman energy. It's the same habit, stripped of the colorful office and the Constitution wallpaper. And when he starts scamming again, roping in Jeff, plotting identity theft on a drunk businessman who insulted him, that payphone may as well light up neon. One phone left. One life left. And he still can't resist dialing the one number that always calls him back. Trouble. The real question is what happens when, for the first time, he can't just hang up on the fallout. And that's where the card comes in, the little rectangle in his wallet, the magic ticket out. On the surface, it's just a vacuum repair shop in Nebraska and a grumpy guy who really does sell dust bags. But if you know the coded language, if you say the right phrase about a Hoover Max Extract 60 Pressure Pro, you're not buying a vacuum, you're buying erasure. New name, new social security number, new story. For a steep price, you disappear off the board. Think about it, this is not some last-second plot device. Saul learns about the disappearer way before the Empire fully rots. He's the one who gives the card to Jesse. He's the one who explains the rules, the cost, the no-backsies. At the time, Saul has an off-ramp that almost no one in this universe ever gets. A legal-ish, organized witness protection program for criminals who can pay. And he could have used it early, when the first bodies drop. When Crazy 8 is in the basement. When Walt and Jesse are clearly in over their heads and the high school teacher Cook's a little meth story has already turned into acid barrels and missing drug dealers, that's already a giant red flag. The smart move? Cash out, call the number, let Ed the Disappearer sell you a new life. But here's the thing. As long as the money's flowing and the schemes are working, Saul tells himself it's manageable. Then the heat ramps up. The Dia starts circling. Hank is sniffing around Jesse. Walt's office is bugged. There are literal cameras in the vents above his clients. This is not subtle. This is the universe screaming, "Leavin' Saul?" He just doubles down on burner phones and strip mall theatrics. He doesn't hit the eject button when his office becomes a listening device, or when he's laundering cash for a guy who blows up nursing homes. He waits until the absolute last moment, when the feds are at the door and Walt's world is already a smoking crater. That's not bad luck. That's self-sabotage. Hear me out. Saul keeps the card close because he likes knowing escape is possible, but he doesn't actually want to escape. As long as there's still a game to play, a client to flip, a loophole to exploit, he can't walk away. Prison or death are abstract problems for future Saul. The thrill of one more move? That's right now. To be fair, that mindset is what makes him so effective as a lawyer. It's also what makes him completely incapable of choosing safety over spectacle. And when he finally does use the card, when he becomes Gene in Omaha, you'd think the story's over. New name, new job, cinnamon rolls. But still, another missed opportunity. because that same pattern restarts under a different name, and the man who once paid to vanish will start risking everything just to feel like Saul Goodman again. So what does a guy like that do when quiet anonymity starts to feel worse than a prison cell? So what does a guy like that do when quiet anonymity starts to feel worse than a prison cell? He becomes Gene Takovic, and somehow manages to turn witness protection into solitary confinement, with extra frosting. Omaha, the mall, the Cinnabon. On paper, it's safety. In reality, it's grayscale purgatory. You watch Gene behind that counter, dusted in flour under fluorescent lights, and it's almost funny how aggressively unSaul this world is. No colorful suits, no Bluetooth, no clients begging for miracles, just cinnamon rolls and dead air. Then he goes home to that tiny, beige apartment, eats alone, and the big event of the night is rewinding an old VHS tape of his own commercials. Think about it. His only real companion is a grainy version of Saul Goodman yelling "Better call Saul" at an audience that doesn't exist anymore. That tape is a clue to where his head really is. He's not trying to move on. He's replaying the highlight reel like a retired athlete who never found a new life after the game ended. Here's the thing. This is the logical endpoint of his self-sabotage. He got what he said he wanted in those final Breaking Bad days. He's alive. The feds and the cartel can't find him. Mission accomplished, right? But look at what had to be stripped away to get that outcome. No courtroom, no cons, no Kim, no stage to perform on. For a guy who built his entire identity around being seen, this is basically sensory deprivation. And it's not like some cosmic force shoved him into that mall. The disappearer gives him instructions, sure, but Gene is only in that van because Jimmy McGill, then Saul Goodman, kept picking the most dangerous option every time there was a safer off-ramp. He chose cartel money. He chose to launder for Walt. He chose to double down after Bagman, after seeing his life almost end in the desert. By the time he's frosting pastries, the prison bars are self-installed. To be fair, a different person might use this new life as a reset. New name, new city, clean slate. Therapy, a boring hobby. Something. But Gene doesn't heal. He marinates. He sits in that recliner, drink in hand, stewing in nostalgia and resentment. You can see it in those long, quiet shots. The way he leans toward the TV when Saul is on screen, like he's trying to crawl back into his own myth. The reform is cosmetic. The addiction to the game is untouched. And that's where the first crack appears. A cab driver who recognizes him. Jeff, one tiny break in the routine, one guy who remembers Saul Goodman, and suddenly Gene isn't terrified. He's tempted. Suspicious situation, huge red flag, but he treats it like a casting call. Hear me out. The second he starts plotting with Jeff, you realize how thin that layer of Gene really is. The next move he makes in Omaha will prove that Saul never actually died. He was just waiting for an audience. The cab ride. This is the moment the beast opens one eye. You're watching Gene in that back seat, trying to be wallpaper, and then you see it at the exact same time he does. The air freshener. Albuquerque, that little blue tree, is the first obvious red flag. It's such a tiny prop. But think about it. Gene has spent years scrubbing New Mexico out of his life, and suddenly it's swinging inches from a guy who keeps staring at him in the rearview. Too long. Too focused. Not the casual, you look familiar kind of look. It's that suspicious, drilling stare that says, "I'm trying to place you." His reaction is pure terror. He freezes. He stammers. You can almost hear the mental checklist: new identity, fake license, disappearer on speed dial. At the time, this should be the biggest clue that his cover might be blown, that Omaha is no longer safe. Any rational witness protection client calls the vacuum repair shop immediately, right? But here's the thing. That fear doesn't stay fear. It mutates. Fast. Once Gene realizes Jeff might actually recognize Saul Goodman from the commercials, from the billboards, from the late-night circus act, you watch the panic twist into something uglier. Excitement. Validation. Someone remembers him. Not Jimmy McGill. Not the screw-up brother. Not the guy Kim tried to save. Saul, the persona that got him barred, that dragged him into cartel money runs like Bagman, that literally almost killed him in the desert. That's the one this random cab driver is starstruck by. And this is where the self-sabotage kicks in. Instead of reporting the threat, instead of going deeper underground, he does the exact opposite. He seeks Jeff out. He walks straight into the lion's den of his own past, knocks on the door, and confronts the guy who could ruin everything with one phone call. Hear me out. This is Jimmy's Mesa Verde forgery all over again. Faced with a clear off-ramp to safety, he sprints toward the most dangerous option. To be fair, he pretends it's about control. He'll manage Jeff. He'll scare him, negotiate, put a lid on it. But still, another missed opportunity to actually protect himself. Because the second Jeff asks him to show him the game, Gene doesn't just say no and walk away. He leans in. He agrees. He starts designing a scam the way he used to design TV ads and cons with Kim, like the old days when the rush mattered more than the risk. And that's the core flaw laid bare. Even after losing his license, Kim, his freedom, everything, the chance to be Saul again for one small-time idiot in Omaha is more seductive than staying invisible and alive. The scam he cooks up with Jeff? It's not really about the stolen merchandise or the money. It's about proving that Saul Goodman is still in there, under the Cinnabon apron, just waiting for a stage. The scary part is what happens once that stage gets a little bigger. The department store heist. This is where Gene stops surviving and starts chasing the high again. On paper, it looks like a clever way to get leverage over Jeff. In reality, it's a full-blown relapse dressed up as problem-solving. The setup is meticulous. First, Gene gets Jeff hired at the mall department store, nudging him toward the night shift like it's just friendly advice. Then, he turns the place into his new sandpiper. He walks the aisles, counts steps, clocks cameras, notes which sections are high-end and which are junk. He times the security guard's rotation down to the minute. Think about it. This guy is supposedly terrified of being recognized, but he's lingering in a well-lit mall, literally mapping out his own arrest route. Then comes the choreography. Gene has Jeff practice the path over and over on that homemade floor grid, turning a bored cab driver into a discount Danny Ocean. He calculates how long Jeff can be out of frame, how many armfuls of designer clothes he can grab, how fast he has to move before the guard circles back. It's a dance routine, except the music is the beeping of security scanners and Gene's heartbeat. And what's the grand payoff? Some stolen merchandise. A cut of the profits for Gene. That's it. No cartel money, no life or death stakes, just jackets and watches that might net a few thousand if they're lucky. Compared to the risk, it's comically small. He's risking exposure, arrest, and a one-way ticket back to federal prison for a haul that doesn't even move the needle on his actual problems. Here's the thing, Gene doesn't do this because he needs the money. His Cinnabon life is boring, not desperate. The real reward is the satisfaction of pulling off the perfect crime again, of proving to himself and to this random cabbie that the legendary Saul Goodman brain is still fully operational. To be fair, the plan is impressive, but that's the red flag. He's not solving a crisis, he's manufacturing one so he can swoop in and fix it. This is addiction language, top to bottom. You see the planning phase, the blueprints, the rehearsals, the rationalizations about insurance and leverage. You see the high during the execution, Gene whispering instructions, eyes lit up, living through Jeff's adrenaline. And you see the crash afterward, that restless look that says, okay, what's next? Because once you've scratched the itch, staying small is no longer an option. Hear me out. The mall job is actually another missed opportunity. He could have used that leverage on Jeff and walked away, stayed in the shadows, kept Saul buried. Instead, the success of this tiny, stupidly risky scam convinces him he can go bigger. And he does. The next target isn't a store. It's a lonely, drunk businessman, a living, breathing mark whose life and identity Gene is about to chew up. That's a line even Saul, at his sleaziest, usually danced around. The fact that Gene crosses it, it's evident how far he's fallen. The cancer victim. This is where Gene Takovic stops being a sad exile and becomes something darker. Up to this point, you can almost squint and see a guy just trying to feel alive again. But think about it. This is the moment where the fantasy drops, and you're left with what he really is when nobody's watching. The setup is deceptively simple. A bar. A lonely, chatty businessman on a work trip. Gene slides in like it's just another night, buys him drinks, laughs at his jokes, nudges him toward one more round, then another. You watch him steer this guy, inch by inch, straight toward blackout. It feels casual on the surface, but it's a precision job. The cinnamon roll talk, the fake camaraderie, The way Gene keeps subtly checking if the guy's card is out, if his speech is slurring. Every beat is aimed at one thing: getting this man so obliterated that Jeff and Buddy can waltz into his house and strip mine his financial life. And then, the gut punch. In the cab, Buddy mentions what he saw in the house. The guy's got cancer. Suddenly, the whole con snaps into focus. This isn't just some faceless mark, this is a clear echo of Walter White. A sick man, probably terrified, probably clinging to his career and savings as the last things he can control. Even Jeff and Buddy, who were fine robbing random drunk dudes, feel it. You can see it on their faces. This is a red flag. This is a line. Buddy actually stops. He refuses to go through with it. To be fair, that's the obvious human reaction. You find out your target might be dying? Most people hit the brakes. But here's the thing. Gene does the opposite. He explodes. He tears into Buddy for having a conscience, fires him on the spot, and insists on finishing the job himself. No hesitation, no debate, just pure, icy determination. Hear me out. We didn't even see Saul Goodman get this cold with Walt. Saul flinched at cartel bodies. Gene doesn't flinch at a chemo port. This is where the show strips away the colorful office, the Constitution wallpaper, the goofy ads, and leaves you with the core truth. The con was never really about helping the little guy or outsmarting bullies. That was the sales pitch. Underneath, it's always been about control and self-validation, about Jimmy McGill proving he's the smartest guy in the room, even if he has to burn the room down. In Omaha, with no cartel, no Heisenberg, no Kim, he still manufactures a victim just so he can feel like Saul again. And this is the point where the audience finally turns on him. Robbing a dying man for kicks isn't bad luck, it's a choice. Another missed opportunity to walk away. So when the cops eventually close in, it doesn't feel random or tragic. It feels inevitable, like the bill coming due on a guy who refused, at every single off-ramp, to stop being his own worst enemy. The dumpster. The arrest. This is where all those just one more scam decisions finally cash out. And the wild part is, it's not some elite task force that brings down Saul Goodman. It's a shoebox, a phone call, and a guy who cannot stop being himself. The chase starts ugly. Gene bolts from his house in the middle of the night, cops closing in, clutching that Saul Goodman shoebox like it's a life raft and not a giant red flag. He ducks into the alley. He dives into the dumpster. It's disgusting, cramped, and absolutely perfect for a guy who's been spiritually living in the trash for years. Inside, he's ripping open the box, shredding documents, smashing tapes, trying to erase a decade of crime in 30 seconds. But here's the thing. He still thinks he's running the show. Even in a dumpster, he's not just hiding, he's scheming. He pulls out the phone. One more call, one more attempt to steer the narrative, to drag Jeff's mom into it, to control who says what and when. At the time, it feels like classic Saul damage control. Talk fast, spin harder, stay ahead. Except the call is the clue that gives him away. His voice, his timing, the sheer stupidity of being on the line while sirens are literally in the background. You can almost feel the universe going, really? You had one job. Be quiet. Think about it. This man spent years as a ghost in Omaha, perfectly invisible. And he gets caught because he cannot resist hearing himself talk. This is self-sabotage in its purest form. After all that careful hiding, what finally brings law enforcement right to him is his return to active scheming. The mall cons, the identity theft, the arrogance that he can still outsmart everyone, that he's still the smartest guy in the room, even when that room is made of rusted metal and rotten produce. To be fair, he's been rewarded for that mindset his entire life. But now, it's not a clever closing argument. It's an obvious trail. Cut to the holding cell. The game is over, right? He's done. But he picks up the scratched-in piece of metal and carves 3 letters into the wall. SG was here. Hear me out. That tiny act is everything. He's literally tagging his jail cell with the same brand that's about to be weaponized against him in court. Even caged, he wants the legend on the record. Another missed opportunity to finally let Saul die. And that's the twist the show is setting up. In the courtroom, he's going to get one last chance to put the suit back on, metaphorically, and talk his way down to almost nothing. He can be Saul Goodman and save his skin. Or he can, for once, be Jimmy McGill and tell the truth. The question is, which identity actually walks into that courtroom? So he walks into that courtroom with a choice. But before we get there, you have to see just how close Saul Goodman gets to actually winning. Because in the interrogation room, he pulls off the most ridiculous, impossible, jaw-dropping legal magic trick of his entire career. The room. The cuffs. The end of the line. At least, that's what it should be. He's caught as Gene. The vacuum guy is gone. The game is over. Any normal lawyer would be begging for mercy. Saul sits down, sees the tape recorder, sees the faces, and instantly flips the power dynamic. Think about it. He starts narrating his own arrest like it's an opening statement. Right away, he reframes everything. He's not the mastermind. He's the victim. He paints Walter White as this terrifying abuser, a cartel-level boogeyman who had him under his thumb. You watch him lean into the self-pity, talking about being kidnapped in the desert, about the barrel of a gun in his face, and you can almost see the agents start to think, okay, maybe this guy was coerced. It's obvious he's performing, but he's so specific, so pathetic on purpose, that it starts to sound plausible. Here's the thing. Saul knows exactly what they want. They want Walt's empire mapped out, the money trail, the names. So he offers cooperation, but only in slices. He dangles details about the meth operation, the distribution network, the neo-Nazis. Always just enough to keep the prosecutors interested, never enough to completely empty his leverage. He's reading the room like a poker table, and he knows the incentives. Federal prosecutors don't just want justice. They want a story and a win. A life sentence on a guy who helped Heisenberg under duress? That's paperwork. A headline about the infamous Saul Goodman flipping and filling in the blanks on the biggest meth case in the Southwest? That's career gold. So he takes what should be a slam dunk life sentence and slowly carves it down. 15, 10, 7. It's absurd. It's also completely in character. This is peak Saul Goodman. Weaponized self-pity, weaponized charm, weaponized legal nuance. He cites case law, he nitpicks wording, he threatens to take a jury on a guided tour of his victimhood. And to be fair, the feds walk right into it. Because at the time, the narrative he's selling solves a lot of problems for them. What looks like bravado is actually him exploiting every red flag in their own system. If this story were about pure self-preservation, that 7-year deal is the happy ending. The conman beats the law, again. He outplays Walter, the cartel, the vacuum guy, and even the federal government. But here's the thing. That's not where it stops. Pattern, interrupt. He wins, and then aims the gun at his own foot. When he walks into the actual sentencing hearing and sees Kim in the gallery, the whole performance shifts. The clues were always there. Jimmy McGill never just wanted to live. He wanted to be seen, understood, maybe even forgiven. And in that moment, you're about to watch him take that perfect 7-year escape hatch and light it on fire. This is the moment. The perfect deal is on the table, the escape hatch is wide open, and Jimmy McGill walks back into the fire. The hearing. The performance. At first it looks like Saul Goodman is just running the same script he's been perfecting for days. He stands up in that courtroom and launches into the polished victim story you've already heard in the negotiation room, the terrified lawyer, bullied by Heisenberg, just trying to survive. It's smooth, it's calculated, and at the time, it sounds exactly like the kind of thing Saul would say to shave a few more months off that 7-year sentence. But then he sees Kim. That's the red flag. You can almost feel the gears grind. He starts to repeat the script, and then he veers. Hard, instead of doubling down on the lie, he starts adding these little corrections, these actually. That's not quite how it went moments. Think about it, Saul Goodman, the guy who can outtalk anyone, suddenly can't live with his own story. He confesses to everything, not just the obvious stuff with Walt, but the ugly, specific parts. How he didn't just go along with the empire, he helped build it. How he fed Walt ideas, laundered the money, kept the machine running when it should have fallen apart. And then he does the one thing nobody in that room is expecting. He drags Chuck into it. He admits how he lit the fuse on Chuck's breakdown, how the Mesa Verde forgery wasn't an accident, how his need to win made his brother's worst fears come true. Here's the thing. With every word, you can see the 7-year miracle deal evaporating. The prosecutors are stunned. The judge is basically like, "You understand what you're doing?" It's evident this is not strategy anymore, this is self-immolation. He turns a near-guaranteed 7 years into an 86-year sentence in real time. Who does that? Who walks into court with a plea bargain and walks out with a life sentence on purpose? But hear me out. As much as this is genuine accountability, it's still a performance. He times it for maximum impact, with Kim sitting right there. He keeps glancing over, almost checking. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing me? To be fair, that's always been his core flaw. He can't stand being misunderstood. Earlier in his life, that meant doing bigger, flashier cons so people would finally recognize how clever he was. Now, it means blowing himself up in public so Kim and everyone else finally recognizes how guilty he is. So the need hasn't changed. The direction has. He still has to control the narrative. He still has to be the author of his own legend. But instead of Saul Goodman, criminal mastermind who beat the system, it's Jimmy McGill, the man who owned what he did. It's self-destruction as brand management. Is this redemption? Is it just another con, this time on himself? Or is it, in classic Jimmy fashion, a messy mix of self-liberation and self-sabotage that he can never fully untangle? Because if this is how far he'll go just to rewrite the story once, what happens when the walls close in and he doesn't get to write it at all? So what happens when the guy who's been rewriting his story for decades finally loses the pen? You lock him up. You take away the suits, the Bluetooth, the Cadillac, and somehow Jimmy McGill still finds a stage. Prison life. On paper, it should crush him. But look at what he actually does. He's baking bread like it's a craft service table. He's trading favors, smoothing over conflicts, turning commissary and kitchen duty into a full-time social network. Very quickly, it's obvious. This man was never going to just sit in a cell and count bricks. He becomes a kind of jailhouse lawyer and folk hero. Inmates line up with appeals, disciplinary write-ups, letters they don't understand. Jimmy reads, interprets, spins. He can't practice law, but he can still practice Jimmy. Think about it. He's right back where he started in Cicero, running little operations for people who feel powerless. Except now, the con is semi-legal, and the audience is captive. And everyone calls him Saul. Guards, prisoners, staff. Saul Goodman echoes down the hallway like a brand-name product. To be fair, that's the persona they know. That's the legend that made it into the news. From their angle, this is a celebrity endorsement walking around in a beige jumpsuit. But here's the thing. When Kim shows up, when it's just the two of them in that interview room and later in the yard, he doesn't lead with Saul. He looks at her and says he's Jimmy. Not Gene, not Saul. Jimmy, it's a tiny line, but it's a massive clue that he's finally trying to balance the mask with the person underneath. He's still performing. He's absolutely still using his skills to work the system and earn status. The difference is the scale. The stakes aren't about empire building anymore. Nobody's cooking meth. Nobody's laundering millions. The game is figuring out how to shave a few months off a sentence for a guy who got into a fight. Or how to get an extra tray of bread to the right person so nobody gets shanked. It's smaller, but it's also healthier. Hear me out. His worst enemy never disappeared. That need to be Saul. To be needed. To be the clever one who can fix it all, it's still right there. Kneading dough and cutting deals. But the environment finally puts a hard cap on the damage. He can't accidentally unleash a cartel war from the prison kitchen. He can't blow up an entire city's criminal ecosystem with one flashy ad buy. Looking back, every phase of his life feels like a failed attempt to manage the same impulse. Slippin' Jimmy tried to turn it into petty scams. Young lawyer Jimmy tried to wrap it in legitimacy. Saul Goodman weaponized it into a business model. Gene tried to bury it under a Cinnabon hat until one drunk mark poked the bear. Prison is the first time the world around him actually matches his limits. But if this is the right container for his chaos, what happens the next time someone offers him a chance to step outside those walls, even metaphorically? Kim's cigarette. The final red flag Jimmy can't spin into a joke. We're in the tunnel off the prison yard, black and white. Concrete. Chain link. It's the visual opposite of that warm him parking lot, but the posture is the same. Kim leaning against the wall. Jimmy beside her. One cigarette, passed back and forth. No score, no flashy Saul Goodman colors, just the scratch of a lighter and the sound of two people who've already said everything that matters. Think about it. The show is practically screaming at you with the echo. Same angle, same shoulder-to-shoulder framing, same little ritual of sharing a smoke. At the time outside him, that cigarette felt like a beginning. Now it's a coda. Back then, they were partners in crime, flirting with the line. Here, it's evident they're on opposite sides of it forever. Because here's the thing. The silence hits harder than any speech. In the old scene, the quiet was charged, like the pause before a con. In the tunnel, that same quiet is just wait. He's in a jumpsuit. She's in street clothes. He gets marched in by guards, she walks in under her own power and can walk right back out. The posture matches, but the power dynamic doesn't. You can almost feel Jimmy clocking that difference every time he hands the cigarette back. And yet, this is the one time he hasn't gamed the system to get her here. That's the twist. His big courtroom confession, the one that nukes his 7-year deal and lands him a life sentence, is the first truly selfless, honest move he's made in years. To be fair, it's impressive in its own suicidal way. He finally tells the whole truth about Walter, about Howard, about Chuck, about Kim. No angles. No, but I was just the lawyer dodge. But still, another missed opportunity buried inside that gesture. Because he only gets to be honest after he's already destroyed the one relationship that might have kept him from needing such a grand sacrifice in the first place. Hear me out. If he'd chosen Kim over the rush of being Saul Goodman back when they were doctoring Mesa Verde files and running mall cons, this scene doesn't exist. No prison tunnel. No lifer sentence. Just two lawyers who maybe argue about ethics instead of body counts. This is the core theme made physical. His worst enemy was never the law, or the cartel, or even Chuck's voice in his head. It was that itch he kept scratching, the need to be the cleverest guy in the room, the showman, the legend, the guy who can't accept a quiet life with Kim when he could chase a louder one as Saul. So what are we actually looking at in that cigarette glut, the closest thing he's ever going to get to peace? Jimmy and Saul finally coexisting in a place where he can't hurt anyone else, where the game is over, and the only audience left is the one person who remembers who he was before the billboard suit and the Bluetooth. The question is, once you've seen him like this, can you ever watch Saul Goodman the same way again? So let's zoom out for us. That man in the glow of the cigarette? He didn't get there because of one bad day. He got there by ignoring a whole highway full of exits. Start with the Chicago sunroof. The origin story. Jimmy could have apologized, taken the misdemeanor, actually treated it as the wake-up call it obviously was. Instead, he doubles down on the bit, turns humiliation into mythology, and locks in this idea that the way you survive is by making the craziest move in the room. Then, the mailroom. He has a job, a brother inside the castle, a path. The boring option is simple. Accept Chuck's no, leave build something small and honest. Think about it. James M. McGill, attorney at law, wills and divorces in a strip mall, dinner with Kim, no cartel. But here's the thing, that feels like going back to Cicero. So he stays. He chases Chuck's approval instead of his own life. He passes the bar. Massive win. The safe move is to grind, build a reputation, be the guy old ladies recommend at church. He tastes that for about 5 minutes, then veers into the TV ads, the phone lines, the circus. Because boring competence doesn't scratch the itch. The showmanship does. Mesa Verde forgery. He could have trusted Kim, told her the truth, taken the hit. Confess instead of outsmart. Instead, he forges documents to help her, proving Chuck right and shoving himself outside the law. Another missed opportunity. Chuck's death. That's the screaming red flag. A normal person pulls back. Therapy, low profile, maybe actually listening to Howard. Jimmy turns it into a punchline at the hearing, then rebrands. The name change is an off-ramp too. Saul Goodman could have been just marketing, a character he wears at work. He chooses to live in it. Then Lalo. He could refuse cartel clients, keep it sleazy but non-lethal. He doesn't. Bagman happens. He almost dies in the desert, sees his own grave out there. The obvious move is walk away after that. He doesn't. He goes harder. Sandpiper? He could settle cleanly, take life-changing money, retire with Kim. Instead, he strings it along, then helps run the Howard scam that destroys the one decent guy in the room. Kim leaves. That's the final domestic off-ramp. Follow her out of town, stop the game. He stays and becomes full Saul. Post Breaking Bad, he literally pays for the disappearer. Twice, use it earlier, stay gone. Stay Gene for real. But hear me out. To him, Nebraska is worse than prison. So Gene's first scam, then the cancer victim con, are inevitable. The dull safety of Cinnabon feels like erasing himself, so he resurrects the one identity guaranteed to blow everything up. And that's the pattern. No single decision dooms him. It's the cumulative effect of always picking the option that lets him be the most Saul Goodman in the moment. He can read everyone else's problems with X-ray clarity, but when it comes to his own, he's blind on purpose. The next step is asking what that blindness says about us watching him, and why it's so easy to cheer for the choice that ruins him. So why do you still kind of want this guy to win, even as he's lighting his own life on fire? That's the uncomfortable part. The show makes Jimmy's self-destruction feel way less like a monster story and way more like a magnified version of stuff you already recognize in yourself. Think about it. Jimmy's core flaws aren't alien. He craves validation. He hates being underestimated. He reaches for short-term relief instead of long-term health. That's you procrastinating on a project, or firing off a petty text you know you'll regret, blown up into cartel money and forged documents. When he forges Mesa Verde's address to stick it to Chuck, it's a catastrophic decision. But the emotional logic is obvious. The little brother finally gets to prove the genius big brother wrong. It feels good in the moment. It poisons everything after. The camera is in on it too. The show constantly locks you into his perspective. You don't just hear about his cons, you ride shotgun. The first time he runs those cheesy TV ads after getting his license back, you feel the buzz with him. It's fun. It's clever. It's also a giant red flag that he's skipping the boring, healthy path he supposedly fought so hard to earn. But here's the thing. At the time, you're laughing, not judging. The thrill is contagious. Same with the humiliations. When Chuck outs him in front of the bar association, you feel that sting in your gut. When Howard keeps patting him on the head, or when rich clients talk down to the public defender guy, it's evident why Jimmy reaches for the shortcut. The show lets you live inside the wound first, so when he makes a bad call, it feels emotionally understandable even when it's logically indefensible. And the writers know exactly what they're doing. They give him just enough charm, just enough genuine care for underdogs, that you keep hoping this time he'll take the off-ramp. He saves clients nobody else cares about. He drags those heavy bags through the desert in Bagman, and you think, all right, he's seen how close this gets to death. He's out. But still, another missed opportunity. Next thing you know, he's joking with Lalo in the courthouse like any of this is normal. Hear me out, because this loops back to that Hank and Heisenberg framing. Hank can't see Walt, because his bias paints Walt as too weak, too harmless. You can't see Jimmy clearly because your bias paints him as too funny, too scrappy, too relatable. You excuse the suspicious stuff. You wave off the pattern. Gene in Omaha has a safe, boring life, and you still feel that little spark when he decides to run a petty scam on the loud drunk guy. You're complicit. That's why the show lingers. Recognizing Jimmy's pattern on a smaller scale in yourself is the part you can't shake. And it sets up the question the ending really presses on. What does it look like if someone like that actually stops? Hear me out. The show isn't just telling you Jimmy's story, it's teaching you how to read Jimmy, then daring you to miss the obvious red flags. The escalation. That's the writer's blueprint. It starts with tiny cons that feel almost cute. Slipping Jimmy faking a fall in the Cinnabon bathroom. Fake Rolex scams in Cicero. The billboard stunt where he rescues the worker to get free publicity. At the time, these play as scrappy underdog moves. But think about it, every one of those is Jimmy choosing the shortcut over the slow, boring, healthy option. Then they scale it. First it's elder law clients and harmless TV commercials. Then it's forging Mesa Verde documents to stick it to Chuck and him. Then cartel money in the desert in Bagman, Jimmy literally drinking his own urine to survive. Same impulse, just higher stakes. The writers don't jump from cheap commercial lawyer to guy laundering millions for a meth kingpin. They walk you up the staircase one riser at a time. So by the time he's in life or death territory, it feels inevitable. And they tag every step with visual clues. Cigarettes with Kim on the home parking lot ledge, in the courthouse garage, outside Saul's tacky strip mall office. You can track where he is on the Jimmy Saul spectrum by who he's sharing that smoke with and what they're laughing about. Early on, it's intimacy and vulnerability. Later, it's complicity. The suits and commercials do the same work. Off the rack, muted Jimmy turns into neon Saul with loud ties and louder ads. Every color jump is another missed opportunity to stay small and safe. Courtrooms and deserts are like two poles of his soul, the institutions he's supposed to respect and the lawless void where he actually operates. When he's in the desert with cartel cash, the show is basically underlining in bright yellow, this is where the conman finally outruns the lawyer. And over all of that, you've got the black and white Gene sequences. Structurally, that's the writers telling you, we already know where this ends. No mystery about whether he gets away. So the suspense shifts from what happens to when does he cross the line for good. Every time Gene risks his cover for a petty scam, it retroactively makes earlier scenes feel like clues you missed. Of course he couldn't stop. It was evident from the pilot. Go back to the Kettlemans. His charm, the fake concern, the way he lights up at the idea of flipping their embezzlement into a payday. His simmering resentment of him. His joy at tiny wins, like getting one client to say yes. The writers plant all of that day one so you can't say you weren't warned. The whole series is basically a slow-motion argument between Jimmy and his better angels, and you watch him lose it, inch by inch. But if the pattern is that clear, what does it take to finally break it? So that brings us to the uncomfortable question the show keeps poking at. Was Jimmy ever actually going to turn out any other way? Or are we just watching a guy act out a script that was basically written by his childhood, his family, and a world that never really let Slippin' Jimmy grow up? Think about it. The doomed from the start case is pretty strong. You've got a kid whose earliest identity is literally a nickname for petty crime. A father who's so gentle he gets robbed blind. A mother who clearly favors the sharper, more manipulative son. Then Chuck, the one person Jimmy desperately wants respect from, looks at him and says, almost like a curse, "You'll hurt everyone around you." That's not just a warning. It becomes a prophecy Jimmy can't stop trying to outrun and keeps accidentally proving right. And the world around him helps lock that in. Class and respectability are a constant red flag. Heem's lobby might as well have a sign that says no mailroom trash beyond this point. Rich clients, blue chip banks, white shoe partners, they all see Jimmy's charm as suspicious instead of valuable. It's evident at the time that no matter how hard he grinds for that law degree, the room has already decided who he is. His need to perform, to win people over with a story or a joke, is the only tool that ever worked for him as a kid, so of course he leans on it harder when the stakes go up. But here's the thing. The show keeps handing him off ramps. Real ones. He gets reinstated as a lawyer and could rebuild a straight practice. He has Kim, who doesn't just love him but literally draws him a blueprint for a less self-destructive life. Even after Bagman, when he's dragging those duffel bags through the desert and almost dies for cartel money, he could walk away from Lalo. To be fair, most people would. Jimmy doesn't. And the biggest pattern interrupt is Gene in Omaha. New name, steady job, boring safety, no cartel, no Walt, no Albuquerque. He's finally escaped the blast radius. Then one drunk rich guy insults him in a mall, and suddenly he's running identity theft cons like it's open mic night. Nobody forces him. No systemic barrier pushes him. That's just Jimmy choosing the game over survival. So the show refuses to let you say he had no choice, or he could have been good if not for Chuck. It threads the needle. Jimmy has real agency, but he keeps picking the path that feels the most like him, even when it's obviously the worst possible option. Hear me out. His final courtroom confession is the proof. He's negotiated this absurd 7-year deal, he's about to skate. And then he torches it by telling the whole truth. It's self-sabotage and self-respect in the same move. The question is, when do you think he truly crosses the line? Is it the Mesa Verde forgery? The first cartel case? The moment he walks into that Cinnabon office as Gene? Or is it way back in Cicero, stealing from drunk guys in alleys? What you pick says as much about your belief in people changing as it does about Jimmy. And once you start watching with that lens, fate versus choice, performance versus authenticity, suddenly those goofy commercials, the mailroom pranks, the little cons that seemed purely comedic stop being background noise. They're clues. Tiny missed chances to do something different. Stick around, because when you reframe those funny scenes through where he ends up, the whole series starts to look a lot darker and a lot sharper. So now that those funny moments feel a lot more like evidence, the obvious question is, how do you actually re-watch this show and see all the red flags you missed the first time? Think about it like this. You're not just binging Better Call Saul again. You're running a crime scene review on Jimmy McGill's Soul. Start at the beginning. Those Cicero flashbacks with Slippin' Jimmy? At the time, they play like goofy origin story vignettes. Young Jimmy in the alley, the fake fall, the easy scam. On a rewatch, pause every time he has a clean exit. He could walk away with the money, or he can push the bit a little further. Ask yourself, what's the boring, healthy option here? And how fast does he talk himself into the opposite? Pimento is your first big anchor. This is where Chuck blocks his bar admission and Jimmy finds out the truth in that parking garage. On a first watch, it's heartbreaking. On a rewatch, it's a giant blinking clue. He can cut ties, move on, maybe even leave law behind. Instead, he doubles down on the one path that keeps him in Chuck's orbit, and in the exact profession that hates him. But here's the thing. Once you're tracking self-sabotage, that choice stops being noble and starts looking suspiciously like addiction. Then hit the Mesa Verde arc. Watch the document switch. The late-night forgery. Kim warning him without quite saying the words. Every time Jimmy adjusts those address numbers, he's basically carving "I will prove Chuck" right into stone. Keep an eye on Kim here. When she laughs at his little cons, when she hesitates for half a second before joining in, when she finally goes quiet in that conference room after the bar hearing she's your barometer. To be fair, she's having fun too, but still, another missed opportunity for both of them to pull back. Bagman is the desert wake-up call that doesn't wake him up. He's covered in sand, dragging 2 bags of cartel cash, almost dying next to Mike. On a rewatch, that entire trek is one long off-ramp. He's seen the endgame. Does he scale down? No. He escalates with Lalo. By the time you reach Howard's death, you already know Jimmy's pattern, so that scene plays completely differently. The candle, the suits, the wine, all that color and composure is just camouflage. Watch how Jimmy and Kim freeze, how the show drains the room. This is the bill for every victimless scam coming due. And then you land in the Gene episodes. Black and white Omaha. Boring, safe, anonymous. It should be paradise. Hear me out. Every time he lights a cigarette, every time he slips back into that sing-song Saul cadence, it's an emotional tell. The tracksuit colors are gone, but the impulse is the same. He has a stable life, and he throws it away for a petty identity theft con because a drunk guy bruised his ego. On your rewatch, treat every suit change, every lighter flick, every Kim reaction as a clue. Where do you think he actually dooms himself? Drop your "this is the moment" scenes in the comments, and if you like mapping these patterns, we've got breakdowns of other characters who are just as good at destroying their own lives, they just hide it in different costumes. So let's zoom out, because all these little clues, all these "this is the moment" scenes, are pointing at one big idea. Jimmy McGill doesn't get ruined by one bad break or one cartoon villain. He gets ruined by a lifelong habit of picking the version of himself that feels powerful over the version that might actually be happy. Cicero, Slippin' Jimmy. The mailroom. It's all the same pattern. He can be the guy quietly grinding toward a real law career, or he can be the guy who turns a slip and fall into a magic trick. Guess which one gives him that instant rush? Think about it. Every time life offers him a boring, stable path, he smells boring and hears weak. Is the big one. He could respect the bar, work under Chuck, build trust with Howard, and slowly erase that conman reputation. Instead, he runs that commercial scam, forges Mesa Verde documents, and proves Chuck right in the most dramatic way possible. It's not just a legal shortcut, it's Jimmy choosing the identity that says, "I outsmarted the system," even if it nukes his relationship with the one person he's been chasing approval from his whole life. Then, Saul Goodman takes over. The strip mall office. The inflatable Statue of Liberty. The cartel clients he absolutely should not touch. At the time, he has a choice. Be a quirky but legit defense attorney for regular Albuquerque weirdos, or become the guy who launders money for Walter White. But here's the thing. The second option lets him feel untouchable. Important, essential. That ego hit is the real product he's selling to himself. Bagman is the giant red flag. Left for dead in the desert, shot at, drinking his own sweat. Any reasonable person would say, "Cool, I'm out, I'm going back to wills and traffic tickets." But still, another missed opportunity. He survives and walks straight back into Lalo's orbit, deeper into the game that almost killed him. And Gene in Omaha proves it wasn't just circumstance. New name, safe job, cable, cinnamon rolls, total anonymity. He's basically in witness protection without the paperwork. To be fair, it's soul-crushingly dull. But hear me out. Most of us would kill for a guaranteed second chance like that. He throws it away over a petty identity theft scam on a drunk guy who bruised his pride. That's not about money. That's about addiction to the feeling of being Saul. This is where it connects to you. You're probably not cooking meth or running cartel cash, but staying in a job that destroys you because it matches your hustler image, clinging to a relationship that's chaos because calm feels out of character. That's the same wiring, the same story about who you are, weaponized against you. So maybe the real lesson isn't don't become a criminal lawyer. It's learning to spot your own off-ramps. The nights you know you should stop, the conversations you avoid, the moment you tell yourself, this is just who I am, when it's really just who you were. Drop your pick for Jimmy's true point of no return in the comments. Was it Cicero? Mesa Verde? The first call from Walt? Or that phone call in Omaha he almost doesn't make? And while you're down there, tell me which character or show you want this kind of breakdown on next. Stick around if you want more deep dives into people who are great at reading everyone but themselves.